last week I've hinted at connections between topology and structuralism, and I've said a little bit about the importance of meta-mathematical considerations of the relation between topology and other or different kinds of geometry. A meta-mathematical conception which was worked out in the late 19th century, the famous Erlangen program. Erlangen, named after the city in Germany, and the author of this program, famous mathematician Felix Klein, proposed a classification of different kinds of geometries using concepts which would later become very important reference points for structuralism, especially the idea that geometries can be classified on the basis of certain operations of transformation under which invariants are studied. This is of huge importance, this conception, for the intellectual history of the 20th century, including structuralism, but I didn't point to other or explain other more direct relationships between topology and structuralism. Maybe there will be a chance to do this later today or at the end of the next session. See you. Last time we've looked a little bit and scratched on the surface of a drawing of Leonardo da Vinci's, which is part of the famous Codex Atlanticus in the Biblioteca Ambrosiana in Milan. This is a detail of the relevant sheet, and of special interest for us was the this object you can see up there in some variations. You remember there is, Leonardo calls it a corpo nato della prospettiva di Leonardo Vinci, discepolo dell'esperienza, a body born from or off, he says actually off the perspective of Leonardo Vinci, the disciple, pupil of experience, and below he says then that this is going to be made with simple lines, and we've asked ourselves what kind of thing this actually is and where does it come, where it comes from, and we've talked about these showpieces, perspective showpieces called Mazzocchi or Torcoli in 15th century Italian painting, and we have discussed the fact that, or try to understand what corpo means when he says body, corpo, born from the perspective of what is corpo, and I reminded you that this is also the language of geometry, and what a corpo is a special kind of figure. There are definitions for this in Euclid, and we've also seen that this strange object moves beyond geometric conceptions of what a body is, and there's one important fact that this most complicated version is actually constituted of two bodies which are plated in a certain way, but he says only corpo, one body, and we try to understand in what the unity of this one body may consist in, and seen what kind of complications are there and how they are related to the basic form of this, which is in geometry or topology today called a torus. So topology came in as at a certain point as a help. It was helpful for various reasons, also because it's a discipline which is concentrating on discontinuities in objects such as holes. It's also a science of holes, topology. And of course such a ring has some kind of hole, and this hole is very important as a condition of possibility of connecting things. Of course rings do this. They can hang in a chain, and so on. So the whole is it's not only a discontinuity, but it's also a condition of possibility of connecting things. And we have talked about the special kind of connection to be found in the two spiraling rings, which would have been the part of that which is shown in the most complicated version of this Mazzocchio or Torculo. Well, I won't talk more about this. You will remember it. It wasn't too complicated. We concentrated on the thing itself and on the history and special qualities of this kind of thing, and on certain ways of treating it and developing it graphically, like in this version, where this possibility of spiraling, producing a spiraling line, which produces by spiraling around an imaginary body, this body itself. And I hinted at the fact that this is very important for the development of certain graphic means in Leonardo's drawing, but we didn't consider very much the fact that some of these objects are given in perspective, and I didn't explain how perspective enters into the history of geometry. I sketched out. Only in the discussion we thought about different ways of conceiving of the relationship between this object and geometry, and one important point was that actually Giovanni Carrere raised the issue, is this a body in perspective, or is something different happening here? Does this body, this animated kind of body, take over in a certain way? And we had then the idea that it might be thought of something which is actually taking perspective pyramids on its back, so that it becomes another kind of thing which takes perspective with it, a little catastrophe of perspective happening here. Maybe one could develop this, although one would still have to attend to the fact, of course, that this is still given in perspective, but maybe it is becoming something different. Another way of complicating the relationship between this object and perspective would be to consider the possibility that it might be not a body given in perspective, but something like the body of perspective, maybe the issue here, the body of perspective. And I wanted to make you aware of the fact that there are meta-perspective studies, at least one meta-perspective study in this sheet. This is because this seems to be actually two pyramids. Pyramids or pyramids? Pyramids. Two pyramids. Two pyramids which then nevertheless are formed into some unity. It's not clear what this is about, but it might be, it's reasonable to assume that it might be about the problem of binocular vision, that you have got actually two pyramids which are then connected into a unity by some kind of mental instance. So here it's about the unity of the two, and it's a meta-perspective study because it's about perspective cones, which are the basis of perspective seeing and construction. So there may be some reflections of Leonardo here on perspective, given in perspective, and it's the problem of the unity of the two. So one might think of this body, which is also a unity of the two, that there's some kind of connection here, and what maybe one could develop this one day, but not today. What we see by this, that it's really only scratching on the surface of this paper. One needs to go on. Of course, one needs to explain all the terms going into the inscription and clarify all the different kinds of things to be seen on this paper, which is actually larger than what you see now. And maybe one should do this, but instead I'd switch to another topic today.